Another dam wall has collapsed in Jagersfontein in the Free State. For now, no casualties have been reported. We get the details from Kopanong local municipality Mayor Xolani Tseletsele. Mayor, thank you so much. Can you tell us what happened?
Good evening to you, Anlie, and good evening to the viewers at home. I've just learned that there is a dam burst in Jagersfontein, which happened around, I'm sure, an hour or so ago. But I've spoken to the mining bosses to get a briefing from them. What they've told me is that due to the rains that we have suffered in the last 2 days, the dam has busted today, but it was only water, as they are saying. I am from site now. I had a physical look at it. It has stopped. There is no more a flow to the community. But what it has created now, it has brought back the panic in the community. So immediately after this interview, I will have a session with the community to try and manage the fear that they are suffering from or having. Because the breakage is that the community has not yet completely healed after the disaster that happened on the 11th of September.
Completely understandable that after suffering such a traumatic event such a short time ago that they should react with fear to another situation like this. Can you tell us about any possible damage from this dam wall burst?
What we can confirm is that there's no damage that it has created, and the water is running at the behind of the community and not within the community. So for now, there are no major impacts or damage to the already destroyed infrastructure. But we have also agreed that the mining bosses, I have convened them to meet with them tomorrow so that at least we get a proper explanation as to what are the developments in ensuring that such issues do not occur again, because it's continuing to bring panic to the community.
Apart from the community's panic, which is understandable and is serious in its own right, these kind of situations have environmental impacts as well. What have the mine bosses said about whether this most recent dam burst could have been prevented in any way? I know it's early days yet.
For now, they've not yet said anything to me, at least through the reports. So what we can confirm is that there are assessments that are made, but those assessments have not yet reached my office. That is why I've taken the decision that starting tomorrow, they would need to be convened and come to me one by one and give explanations, including all the stakeholders that are involved in terms of trying to give us explanation what has occurred there, so that we are able to be informed as to what has happened and also be given assurance that such should not happen, because it can't be correct that we are almost 2 weeks and the situation that occurred on the 11th seeks to repeat itself, and we can't only rely on being informed by them, but they need to give us information through proper paperwork that are reports of the investigators or those engineers or anyone or inspectors that has assessed the situation.
Okay, so you're charged with acting on behalf of the communities in your care, and their future safety falls under your ambit. So what are you going to do as mayor, Kopanong Mayor, to try and ensure that going forward there's not only better prevention of these kind of disasters? I know that's not your responsibility, but to try and formulate some formal discussion between mines in the area, the communities in the area, to make sure that everyone's interests are protected.
What I continue to emphasize on the question that you're asking is that there ought to be a coexistence between private capital and communities. And one of them is that when there's going to be reoperation of the mine, the mining bosses ought to come to the community. All different stakeholders ought to come to the community. And we believe that the building of that dam that is busted can be done differently without posing a threat to the community. One is that there ought to be a platform where community will be engaged on proper issues such as infrastructure development, economic participation, and all of the necessities that fulfills a full necessity for human beings to live. Because Human beings themselves are a labor that must be utilized in the interest of the economy. So it can't be correct that majority of the community lives in the crisis of poverty, crisis of unemployment, crisis of inequality. Look, if the mine was able to have such a relationship with the community, I doubt the panic today that we are suffering from would have existed. There would have been panic, but not in a manner in which it does exist today. This community has no relationship with the mining bosses. And this is an opportunity for us out of a disaster to rework on the relationship that we ought to have with private capital. They must take full responsibility in ensuring Jagersfontein as a ghost mining town that has never been developed for the past 170 years. It should be their responsibility to ensure that diamonds that are extracted from this community are also utilized in a proper manner of building a proper, highly developed community. So we are hoping and hopeful that such conversations are going to happen. For now, there's no operations of the mine. We're dealing with a disaster. But what we emphasize on as the leadership of this community is that when there's going to be reoperations, there ought to be proper consultations and a rebuilding of our relationship on ensuring that there is coexistence between us and the nature itself, because nature is controlled by us as human beings as to how do we utilize the resources in the fulfillment of ensuring people live up to their ability and according to their needs.
So just to recap for our viewers who might have just tuned in so far, there's no damage to the community. The dam wall that burst, there was only water, it was not a tailings dam. Can you tell us if there's any emergency plans in place to try and deal with the fallout? Is there necessity for that at this stage?
As we speak, I was on site with the South African Police Services as well as the medical emergency services. The mining bosses have also got their machinery on the ground, trying to work on the infrastructure and ensuring that the water does not continue to flow, because once the water flows, they are going to close the road from Bloemfontein to Jagersfontein. But I've seen there are cars that are already passing and are managing the situation well. But what we are going to do is that the emergency services will be on site. The municipal workers in my office will also be on site, including myself, to ensure that that does not continue overnight. And if it can continue, then we'll be having at least assurance there are people on the ground who will alert the community if there is any danger posed.
Well, thank you very much for bringing us this breaking news update. That was Kopanong local municipality mayor Xolani Tseletsele telling us about another dam burst in the Jagersfontein community.